how do they know when they are in a safe space? How do they
Right.
feel?
Good.
How do they perceive?
There's this peace of mind that comes within a safe space where you know that I'm actually secure. I can be me. I can express myself and I'm not scared of expressing myself.
Good morning, Wilson Obeneme. And I know I still
Yeah.
said that wrong. Tell me how to say that properly,
It
please.
and you've done well. Sincerely, for most people, they just find it difficult. So I don't even bother. Just tell them, call me Wilson. Let's keep it at that.
Obeneme.
Obeneme.
Obeneme. I really do
Yeah.
feel it's a sign of respect that I try to say your last
Yeah.
name properly. I really do, versus just
Good.
Wilson. But I will call you Wilson from now on
Thank
because
you.
that is your first name, and I'm Suzanne.
Yeah.
So you are from Nigeria,
Yeah.
and you agreed to talk to me about creating safety in our workspaces, but we're going to get to that yet because I actually am really fascinated. I was looking you up. From Nigeria, you have an engineering degree,
Yeah.
undergrad and master's, and you started in engineering. And I see you were at Shell, right? 2018.
Yeah.
And then you moved to citizen development
Development. Yeah.
implementation lead. And what is that? Like,
Very
really,
good
I read
question.
it. I'm like, what does that actually
Yeah.
mean?
In fact, sometimes people just send me a DM to ask, what do you do?
Right.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Are you helping the whole country upskill their citizens? And what is that about? Yeah, it's an interesting concept in the IT world. So traditionally, IT is or was done by just people in IT, those who studied IT in school or uni or got a degree or something.
Yeah.
But over time, we found out that there were people who are not IT folks, but are quite enthusiastic around developing simple IT products for themselves, right? And I can give you a simple example. If you're someone who has used Excel for a long time, over time you start getting really creative with it, really creative beyond probably what it should be useful as a non-IT person. And then some smart people gathered together and said, okay, why don't we create another type of doing IT related stuff where this is no longer those trained IT people doing it, but these are people within the business that understand their business the most. We just equip them with the right resources, we upskill them, and then we put a guardrail amongst them, around them to make sure they do those things they want to do, but in a controlled environment. Right.
Okay.
So the simple things that probably you want to automate your simple task. And for I'll use an example. Right now, everyone has access to, say, ChatGPT, Copilot, and stuff, right? And with that, you can do interesting things, but there's a challenge because if you're not an IT professional, there's every tendency you wouldn't know. When it comes to privacy, security, you might not be so conscious about it. So what those people came up with is, okay, we have people in IT who will then help people who are not in IT,
Okay.
right, to upskill them and make sure they do things the right way. And once they are going beyond what they should do, you just bring them back, guide them back, and say, hey, please don't go that way. That is for professionals, in quote. And then the term citizens development came up because the people who are doing this are literally the citizens of an organization, right? They are
Okay.
like your
Okay.
everyday citizens, right? Who are not um, the typical people you will go to. And now, my job is to make sure that those people they have the right things they need to do those simple IT stuff, the simple ones. At least for now, we're keeping it that way in a safe environment, right? From an IT perspective, actually, just keep it in a safe environment, and then just be creative, innovate, and all of that. And we govern what they do more or less. So
Okay.
I hope that gave has given enough perspective to
Yeah,
it.
no, it's good. Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting because you just said safe environment. And when you
Hmm.
and I first spoke, you said to me, I don't think like this is a part of what I do. So you've just
Hmm.
incorporated that word safety because that's what I
Hmm.
want to talk about
Yep.
later today. But when you just said that safe environment, can you qualitate that for me? Like what exactly
Mm.
parts is in your role as
Hmm.
citizen development implementation lead to make the environment safe?
Yeah, no, very good question. And by the way, I'm actually transitioning from the role, but my
Yeah.
my way of doing things is still within that I would say that program or structure, right? So I will be doing something different, but still within that space. So that name might change.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking about it, so like I said. most people, if you give them everything they need and you don't guide them properly, one, there's every tendency they can go overboard. And it's not even their fault
Hmm.
because they are not even aware, right? They can put out confidential information, data that should not be out there, right? Without knowing because they are not trained on this stuff. So when we say safe environment, what we're saying is this controlled environment where you are allowed to be innovative,
Okay.
you're allowed to express yourself from a technology perspective, even though normally other organizations will not even let you do that because they will ask you, where's your IT certification? And
Okay.
you're like, I don't have it. And they're like, leave that alone. But we're creating this environment for you to be creative and just express yourself. How of it is still guarded to make sure you don't go overboard. So that's what we term like a safe environment to be creative, to innovate, but still really guided. Yeah.
So at an IT level, right? Like within the
Hmm.
infrastructure of the technology you have.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then I've not forgotten about the growth plug. It's right here in my
Yeah.
notes. I know that you went out last year
Yeah.
to start the growth plug.
Yes.
Tell me about it. Looks interesting.
Yeah. Very, yeah, I think it's interesting. Because the way that even came to life was because of a presentation I was making while talking about citizen development in an AI conference, right? So, there's this or like an event where we had to talk about technology. And so I come from a background where I've always had to speak to people, right? And just mostly from a faith perspective, right? So you just have to keep encouraging people and try to be there for them when things are going wrong. And so I've always been in front of people talking. But for a long time, I kept that aside because, yeah, I just went into engineering and
Mm-hmm.
IT and all of that stuff, which is quite interesting. But when I started this role as a citizen development implementation lead, part of my role included me going to conferences to speak. And I remember one of those days I was actually with a colleague and we were making this presentation and trying to just get everyone along, carry everyone along who were not even IT folks. And we found out that in a couple of minutes, our booth where we were presenting, it was full and people were just listening keenly. And then someone walks up to me after the presentation to say, have you ever considered really trying to just talk to people and try and explain things to them? Right? I was like, it's something I do, but I just never thought about it in that manner, in that way. And the person said, you should give it a thought. After that, another person said it, another person said it. I had like 4 or 5 people say the same thing to me in that conference. I was like,
Wow.
okay, maybe it's time to
Yeah.
actually start looking at something. Maybe there's something there that I just never knew. And then I started looking for the platform, and then I found that LinkedIn, you had people who were doing something similar. So I was like, okay, it's a professional platform. Maybe I should just try and see how it goes. And then after like 2 months, I found that I really enjoyed it. And for me, it's what was the goal? Helping people reclaim their time, helping people think differently, be more productive, be more conscious around themselves and what they are capable of doing. And after 3 months, I was like, okay, now I'm enjoying this stuff. I need to go in and really put my heart to it. Obviously, it's not easy balancing that with a full-time job, right? But I created a space for myself to experiment things and just try them. And then over time, I would say it became a thing. And then everyone started referring to me as Double Growth Club because that's what I started with. And I was like, okay, maybe it's time to make this really public and keep going with it. So that was what actually led to that Growth Club
And
brand.
your
Yeah.
coaching is strictly people within the work field, right? How, like you said, more
Yep.
productive.
Yep.
How to, it sounds like really like actualize your full self, like really
Hmm.
come to your full potential with a career. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason is most people in the workforce, and it's no fault of theirs. Most times when you're into the workforce and let's say it's your degree or something else led you there, there's every tendency you just get so engrossed, you forget to think about the bigger picture sometimes to just think, is this really what I want? Is this something I truly enjoy? Maybe you can do some things a couple of years, you earn money, which is good. Don't get me wrong, I love that. I please pay me more. But
Right.
I'm a huge fan of if we're to live out our full potential, we need to do things that we truly enjoy,
Right.
right?
Totally.
Something we truly enjoy because it just gives you a sense of peace. and
Mm-hmm.
fulfillment. And when I started coaching, I even realized that it was more like it was something people weren't talking about until they had a space to talk about that. So
Hmm.
some of my clients, when I talk to them, they're like, now I'm actually thinking about what I want to do with my life. I know this has been going great, but some of them are like, do I really enjoy this? Maybe not. And it's time to look and just
Mm-hmm.
experiment and check, right? Yeah.
So, Wilson, what is the number one coaching piece that you have to do? Of all of the aspects of us finding a career that
Mm.
we love and being productive, what's the number one component you could hit that you have to speak with your clients the most about?
Oh, the first part is the mindset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
And there are different facets of that are captured. One major thing I take my clients through is understanding their own core values. What do they stand for?
right.
And it is such a deep realization for most people because they've never thought about it. Like, what makes me me, right? What
Mm,
do I stand for? And it is something that when you realize, it reduces decision fatigue. There are lots of things you say no to because they don't make like those things don't contribute to who you are,
mm-hmm.
right? You can consider them, right, if you have, but it's easy to say, this one, I know everyone is going with this trend, but this is not me. This is not what I want to be remembered for. So that piece on understanding their core values, what they stand for, then it usually propagates to um, what do they see themselves doing in a couple of years? What will really bring that satisfaction? Say you have the money, you have everything you want. What will you be doing for yourself? And some people are like, okay, I've never really thought about that because my whole life it has been about doing what brings me money, not really what
Right.
I want at the end of the day to be remembered for. So I think those aspects of it really changes people's life, if you ask me, most times.
Can you give me one word of what people
Yep.
want the most when they pay you for
Mm.
coaching? Like one word of
I
what
think
we're seeking the
I'll say
most.
clarity. I'll say
Okay.
clarity. Yeah. Um, yeah. For most people, right? Other people want different things, but from and I've done this for a couple of people, and what I can see at the end of the day, people want clarity, clarity for themselves, clarity of
Mm,
why they even exist. To be honest, at the end of the day, they want to figure it out,
right.
so that they won't probably at the end of their life look back and say,
Mm,
I just lived a life that was never meant to be mine.
right.
Yeah, I think clarity will be the word.
What do you think burns people out the most?
Mm, good one. So there are a couple of things in my mind or on my mind, but I will say what burns people out the most is overestimating what they are capable of doing.
Yes, that's me right now. Absolutely, Wilson. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
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 So they have the right intentions. They want to help, but they don't know their limits. And they
Mm-hmm.
just take on so
Mm-hmm.
many things beyond what they actually should be taking up.
Yep.
And before they know it, they're in that rabbit hole and they're burnt out. Yeah.
That's a good one. No, I actually wouldn't have thought of that, but you're bang on. Like that's what I'm experiencing right now, just entering this world of, you know, podcasting and YouTube and
Yeah.
social media. Is what are my capabilities? And for me, it's probably doing too much too quickly, like not allowing myself
Indeed.
steps of the capabilities, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a capacity you need to be able to handle so many things at different times in your life, right? And maybe with experience and different things, you get to build that capacity. But for
Mm,
most of us is someone throws something at you. In your mind, I can do it, but you don't even consider the other things you're doing. It's just I can do it.
right.
And then you take it on. Another person comes, you take it on, you take it on, you
Yep.
take it on, and before you know, you're overwhelmed. So, for me, I think that's a big one for most people. Yeah.
I just had a thought too, is that
Mm.
it's our world. To everything you just described, it's our world right now. Look how I'm
Today,
supposed to keep up with the Joneses. Look how I'm supposed to have this many followers or this many responses, or I should be doing this,
I know.
right? Like we put more pressure on ourselves, I think, than we ever have. So that's just feeding in more to what
Yeah.
you've just said of the main challenge.
Yeah, indeed. It's a fast-paced world, so much
Yeah.
information being thrown at us, so many things we can do. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I tell people you need to zoom, you need to narrow down to what you truly enjoy, what makes you you. If not,
Right.
you'll be chasing other people's mentality, other people's way of doing things, and
Mm-hmm.
then you realize that okay, maybe I need to switch this way, and then no, maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
this one. You're
Yeah.
lost in that pool, right? So it's always good to get clarity and say, okay, the next couple of years, this is what I'm going to do, right? I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care where everyone is heading to. Obviously, I will use new knowledge to improve my processes, but in terms of vision, this is where I want to be, and this is what I'm working towards.
Okay, I have one question more about your coaching, and then I want to
Yeah.
shift over to just workplace health. Is what is the aspect of work life that
Mm,
people like the one aspect that people would want to change the most? It's probably tied to what you just said, but I'm
mm.
like changing that one little thing. What would it be?
From what I'm doing so far, I would say the aspect is having time for themselves and
Mm,
I'll say relationships, to be honest,
okay.
like
Yeah.
valuable relationships. Not,
Yeah.
you know, at work, everybody's your friend. Everyone, you try to smile along, and but if you need help, how many people will actually come to your rescue? And most times, people work so hard that they forget to nurture those real
Mm-hmm.
relationships that transits the workplace. It's good to have work friends, right? It's good to have those things
Yeah.
if they're genuine friends. But most work relationships are quite shallow. It's just because you're close to the person, you see this person every day. It confuses some people and they feel like because I talk to this person every day, we're buddies. But truthfully, if there's something up, very few people will actually come to your rescue. And I think most people are beginning to realize that as much as it's good to flame the fire of your career and please
Mm-hmm.
keep those relationships going. But I think when it comes to work life, people they want to have time for the relationships that mean the most to them. And it seems like they don't have that time and they're trying to juggle a lot of things to keep it and it burns them out as well.
Do you think we're starting to wake up to inauthenticity? When I say inauthenticity, I mean, for
Mm,
example, look at what's happening on social media with branding and what you're
yep,
presenting. And maybe at work too, you want to come across that you've got it all together.
yep.
And are people kind of going, hold on a second, this isn't actually what we want to be living like?
Mm, yeah, I think so. Maybe we're not there yet because
Mm,
quite a lot of people are still scared and it's understandable,
sure.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
People are still very scared and I think sometimes that fear is actually self-imposed. Um,
Yeah.
yes, they don't want it, right? But they don't know how to manage that conversation. In fact, they don't know how
Mm,
to set themselves up to be who they want to be. Because like, what would this person think? What would they think? And it's good to know to understand what they would think, but it's also good to be fair to yourself.
yeah.
Should you keep going at that pace even when you know it's not sustainable, when you know that's
Mm-hmm.
not what you want to be doing, you're harming yourself, and it's only a matter of time. It will show,
So, what does it
right?
take to change that more? What do we need to
Oh,
make
I
things more authentic and more connection? Like, what's that going to take to actually be there where we
yep.
we we are in it? We're authentic. We have good relationships. We are engaged with the other people at work beyond just work.
Yeah, I think it's consciousness,
Hmm.
awareness for a
Mm-hmm.
start.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be very self-aware to know when things, when beyond all the glitz and glamour, you know what you're feeling. Some people don't have a good touch of how they feel, right? They just ride with the wind and then they crash, and it's like,
Mm.
what happened? I should have probably changed this like some years back, but you just never thought about it, right? So one of the things I try to teach people is how to spend time with themselves. Just be by yourself
Mm-hmm.
and think deeply about you, what you value, what makes sense to you, what you want life to be like. And then the second thing is the mindset towards it. Why I say this is because if you don't believe something is possible, you will not even see the possibility of making it, like working towards it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
One
Right.
a typical
Right.
example is if someone believes that 24 hours is never going to be enough, 24 hours will never be enough. Everyone is saying they want more time. I wish I had more time. No, you don't. Trust me, you don't want more time because if with more time, you do the same thing you're doing now with 24 hours,
Yeah.
just for an extended period of time.
Right. Yes.
And it will
Yeah.
wreck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tell people one is you need to be aware, and then secondly, you need to condition your mind, how you think, how you perceive what is even possible.
Mm.
For me, I tell myself if 24 hours is not enough for me, there is something wrong. I need to fix it. I don't go about looking for more time because we have 24 hours. People who live the lives we admire have 24 hours. So they are probably doing something I need to learn how to do. I'm not going to look for an extra
Yeah.
hour. because that won't solve my problem. Yeah.
I've never heard that before. And that is so true, right? We're just going to do the exact same thing we've already been doing if we did have more
Going,
than 24 hours in the day. We'll
yep,
blow that
you'll
too.
just extend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While you're talking, I'm thinking like, because I specifically am wanting to talk to you about workplace health and
Yep.
safety and wellness. What just struck me though, the problem with work is you are constantly hit and inundated by what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be performing and productivity. So, right there, the nature of that workplace beast does
Yep.
not help foster, like build the healthy relationships. When I was teaching, so I'd have 30 kids. I taught, started in high school, but then I taught grades 6, 7, so those like 12, 13-year-olds for a long time. I was so busy. I actually never went into the staff room. I hung out with my students at lunchtime. I wanted to be done earlier to get home to my kids. So I built some good friendships, but I wasn't actually in the day engaging with my staff because I was like, boom, eye on the prize, get this done, be there for my students. And I want to be home earlier with my own children than have 45 minutes in the lunchroom. So the nature of that beast immediately positions us to not do what we probably want to be doing is like thinking, breathing, feeling human
Yep.
beings with others.
Yep. I agree with you, and I even think it's beyond work, if you
Yeah.
ask me, right? I feel it's beyond work. It boils back to what I said about consciousness and just being aware. The truth is, when it comes to that workplace balance, let's use that word, is both dependent on you primarily and then the workplace, right? Every organization should that cares about their people, every organization that cares should make space for people to express themselves, should make
Right.
space for people to share what they are feeling and listen to them, right? And while some organizations have done this well, I feel others obviously should look for ways to do this better. But even in organizations where they have very good systems to help people speak up, they don't. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
just thinking if you were to be my boss and I never tell you that I am actually stressed, right? Obviously, if you care, you will notice and try to get me out of that whatever it is that is overwhelming me and try to help. But ultimately, if I don't communicate really how I feel, there's little you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's little you can do about it. So I'll say both the individual and the organization, they need to find a meeting point to make sure that that person is fine. And the person has to also be willing to put in um, the work, whether it's just really communicating how they feel, right? To make sure that they are in the right, or the workspace is a place where they are comfortable instead of chasing things continuously. They have time to breathe, they have time to reflect, right? Your workload, once it increases beyond normal, there's no way you can have time to reflect, right? And the question is, can you even communicate that to your boss? Like, 2 months ago, this was fine, but now it's just too much for me
Right.
because this has been added, this has been added, this has been added. Just being in a space where you can communicate that. And I know it's not something that is easy to do. Yeah, that I wouldn't say it's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that everyone should find a way to do. That's what I usually say to my clients.
A big part of what you're saying, I think, is it has to
Mm,
come, though, also from that corporate culture that you are working for a company that values everything you're saying. I'm just thinking my nephew's staying with us for 4 months and he's at an accounting firm downtown here in Vancouver. He
mm,
has thousands of dollars to spend in 4 months on his own mental health. Like,
mm,
wow. The first day those interns had a talk by a high up guy about their own wellness and saying, this is number one, your own health is number one, and mental health is number one. And it takes those companies to see that to maybe promote it from the top down. And I think we're seeing it more. I know HR managers are preaching this more. Do you know interesting, my husband is a software developer. Do you know that
oh,
and I'm a teacher, okay, and I was working on a psych unit with kids that I won't even mention all of the trauma that they had and what I dealt with.
mm,
My husband in the high tech world gets triple the amount of psychological service coverage than I
mm,
do as a teacher with our young people. Triple. Triple.
wow.
and he sits at a desk all day long and programs. I'm not knocking that, but
Trust
it's
me,
just, I'm not
your
knocking it.
husband is doing a lot. Trust me.
But, and I was dealing literally with kids that came in that were suicidal and, a lot of
Mm,
self harming and depression, and he had triple. So it's just an interesting thing. Just watching what's happening, I think, with larger firms and just
yeah.
newer companies too, of what they're going to value. And I would think then coaching, does that entail like you have to go where this is prioritized, or do you want to look at the face of the company to make those decisions of where you work?
Yeah, I think it's something everyone should consider while going into an organization. And it's difficult sometimes to think about this when the major reason why you're going to an organization is the pay. And
Mm-hmm.
let's be
Yeah.
honest, that's what
Yeah.
drives most people to
Yeah.
actually go to an organization, right? Who is
It's
going to
money.
pay me more?
Yeah. Money
Yeah, it's
talks.
money. So,
Yeah.
um, but it's something, and from what you're saying, I think it's something people should think about holistically. Some
Mm.
people, and I know someone who took a, a pay cut or like move to another organization with a lower pay just because this person wanted a space where she or he can be themselves, right?
Mm.
And you know that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the workload here is manageable for me. I'm not going to be burnt out. I don't want to come back home. I don't have time to be fine. I don't have time for my partner. I don't have time for my children, right? And that's why it's important that when we make these decisions, right, we make the decisions beyond just the money.
Mm-hmm.
As important as that is, it is very important. Don't get me wrong, right? But if you count your cost, then sometimes it might not be worth it. And then for organizations who are also propagating this, I think it's fantastic that they look into the mental health of their workers because
Mm-hmm.
if they are fine, then they will perform better, right? They will do better. So kudos to such organizations. And please, where are
Yeah.
they? I can
Right. Well, good
recommend them to
on
some of
them.
my
I
clients.
know, right? So, one of the things I have said to many of my former students and I still keep in touch with kids from almost 20 years ago, actually,
Mm,
and is the fact that I have never heard of a single story of somebody on their deathbed saying,
mm,
sheesh, I wish I would have worked more hours, or why didn't I take that higher end job with more pay, and why don't I have more money at the end of my life? Nobody says that on
yeah,
their deathbed. And I think that's such a defining thing to consider in decisions we make is when I am at the end of my life, what do I want to be able to say
indeed.
about my decisions? It's never, nobody, nobody has ever been on the deathbed bemoaning not having
Yeah,
sought money more than relationships and things that are meaningful and
indeed,
matter.
indeed.
Yeah.
Even in someone will say something. There's something a productivity coach will literally never say to you. That is, you need to work more hours
Right? I know. Yeah.
because it's
Okay.
not. Yeah.
Nope. Go ahead.
No, because people confuse being hardworking and being productive with working longer hours. That's not the goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not the goal. The goal is to be more effective and more efficient. And if you're more efficient, you'll most likely do things faster. So it's not about time, it's getting things done and getting it done
Right.
well and
Right.
making sure it's tied to something that needs to be done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Before we start talking about safe places in the
Yeah.
workforce, I want to know what has your faith done for you managing all of this within the workplace, and I guess making the decisions that you make and boundaries that you make and priorities that you make and the
Yeah.
clarity that you say everybody wants.
Yeah. For me, I think my faith has had the biggest influence on me, to be honest, because I'm a Christian, right? And by the time you study the Bible and you see the life of Jesus Christ and the things he talked about, um, personally, this is my thought. If we were to implement half of that, I think the world would be a fantastic place,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when part of our teaching is about your identity. In fact, it's usually said your identity in Christ. Who are you? Like, what do you truly believe? And for me, it answers the question, or it helps answer the question on, or it gives that clarity around the core values, like I talked about one, and then why you are here. And I know it's something a lot of people don't think about. It's like, yeah, just go through time.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I see time as a gift. It is a gift that we are here in this moment because in a couple of years from now, No matter how many years we are blessed with, there's every tendency we'll all transition, right? And when you get to the point you understand that time is a gift to do something within that period you have that God has literally given to you, I think it should change the way you see life generally. You'll be more intentional about your decisions because
Hmm.
um, people, we know so many wonderful people that their names still resonates throughout the sound, like throughout time. If you mention their name, Isaac Newton, everyone's like, oh, that guy, he did something.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So even though
Yeah.
he has passed away for how many hundreds of years now, right, we can still remember what he did within a short period. Even Einstein, right, just over 100 years ago, right? And that is the gift God has given each and every one of us. And that's why I tell people when I work with them is you need to find that thing that will help you live beyond the time you spend on this earth,
Hmm.
literally. People can connect with it. People can say, this person lived, this person did something.
Right.
And it when you start thinking that way, it runs deep. And yeah, I think it just helps.
You know what? While you're talking, I'm thinking there's just such a safe space there, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know your identity, you know who you are, and there's just safety. It's a safety net. I don't know. No, I don't think safety net's the right word. It's just this living with
Yep.
maybe confidence and with whatever that is. I feel that we so underestimate the power of spirituality and just our own belief, our faiths with
Yep.
all we do. When I asked you to interview about creating safe spaces at work, you actually were
Mhm.
like, "No, I don't think it's a good fit for me." Remember for this interview,
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
tell me your? I want to know your initial thoughts because then after you and I spoke, and
Yeah.
we're here. But what went through your mind with that question about
That's a
safe
good
spaces at
question.
work?
Let's see. So, for me, at least some of the conversations I've seen around this, some of it, not all, when people tend to talk about these things, is more around trying to make organizations just look outrightly bad,
Sure. Okay. Fair. Yeah. Fair.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for some people, that's what it's all about. It's like, okay, there's already more or less an agenda behind that conversation. You just
Hmm.
want someone to validate what you want to say. And you're trying to,
Right.
like, they just try to get people to say exactly what they will want them to say. And at the end of the day, it's like, oh, this organization, cancel. I'm not for that, right? I believe
Hmm.
organizations, they have their issues and they should sort it out, right? But when we spoke and we had that conversation, it was me sharing my perspective on what I felt and how I think we can do so, or what we can do about the current challenges we're having in some
Hmm.
workspaces and from an individual perspective. So after having that conversation with you, I think it gave me a bit of clarity. I'll say I then understood there isn't an agenda behind it because I don't obviously want to. Yeah, when it came, I was like, I don't want to fall into a trap where then all of a
Totally.
sudden,
Yeah.
and in social media world, someone will just screenshot what you said. This
Absolutely.
person
Yeah.
said
Fair
that
enough.
this, and
Yeah.
that's not true.
And
Right.
this is your
Yeah.
bread and butter too. I totally get that. I get that. You know what I was
Yeah.
just when you were saying okay, so I asked you before, people want clarity, right? They want to know,
Yep.
do you know what? If I don't have clarity and I'm not sure where I'm going or what I need or what I want to do, I'm that uncertainty is not
Hmm.
safe.
Yep.
It's you're just constantly discombobulated. There's no safety, I think, on a daily basis. It feels like clarity is really linked to just our soul and rest in our soul and how we go about that.
Yeah. If you're not clear on who you are, one, what you want to do, I think it will be difficult to even know what a safe space will be like to you
You're getting to my
because
next question. Finish what you're saying. You're leading into my next
yeah,
question.
because if I'm not aware of what safety will feel like to me, how do I expect some other person to create a safe space for me when I don't even know what safety
Yes.
is like to me?
Yeah, and how many people don't know what safety is? Like
They don't.
I speak so many kids that I worked with on a site, they never grew up with safety. So how can I even be talking about this at work when you haven't even known it at home?
So, yeah, people need to understand themselves, right? And maybe the first safety you should look for, if you ask me, the first safe space is to look for someone to help you understand yourself
Hmm.
because it can then grow from there. Because before that, it's like saying, I want this, this is what will help me, but maybe that's not what will help you because you don't even know what you want there are times we don't really even know what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So being able first to try and find clarity, either by sitting by yourself, right, thinking about it holistically, you can unbox and say, okay, finally, this is what I want, or by working with someone to help you understand what you want. Then you can say to yourself, maybe I'm not even in a safe space right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
While you're talking, I'm thinking too, like, especially for people that don't have that context of what a safe space is. Ready for this question?
Mm.
How do they know when it happens? How do they know? This is my next question for you. It just came up. How do they know when they are in a safe space? How do they
Right.
feel?
Good.
How do they perceive? Go, Wilson.
Yeah, I don't know about others, but I will speak for myself
Yeah.
and at least with those I've worked with. I'll say there's this peace of mind that comes within a safe space, and peace of mind doesn't mean
Mm,
there are no challenges, right? That those are not the same thing, right? Doesn't mean there is not you might have a challenge, but there is this certainty within where you know that I'm actually secure. I can be me.
mm-hmm.
I can express myself and I'm not scared of expressing myself, right? I'm
For
not
sure. Yeah.
I'm not going to be I'm careful with the word judged because people have also used that word wrongly in so many negative contexts. But I wouldn't be judged for really expressing myself. And if I need help, I am open to say I need help.
Yeah.
It's not me realizing I need help and I'm still holding on to the things that don't give me peace. No, that's not the goal. The goal is I'm in a space where I'm not scared of sharing what I think. I'm not afraid to say this is how I feel. And then if at the end of the day it's clear I need help, I'm not scared to go through that process
Mm.
of receiving help. Um, yeah, for me, that's what I would consider a safe space. And I'll say I've been fortunate to be to have that both at home with growing up with my parents. They created this very safe environment to
Mm.
actually talk about a lot of things, right? Does it mean one talks about everything? Not really, but will they listen when you talk? They will,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
right? So it gave me that sense of um understanding around safety. So if I'm in a space where, and like I said, this is my perspective. If I'm in a space where I feel I cannot express myself, right? I'm not saying what I'm thinking is the perfect answer, but I'm saying at least I can vocalize and feel like I'm being heard,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is what I feel. When it comes to what you feel, it's not right or wrong per se. It's what it is, right? It's you expressing yourself, and then maybe experts or some other people can then help you if it's leading in a negative direction. But the ability to freely express yourself, you should express yourself. And once you find yourself in that space, trust me, you're blessed. That I would say.
You're saying the exact same thing that my daughter articulated about her one classroom in high school where she felt safe. She said,
Mm,
it's the only high school classroom I feel safe in. I said, what is it? It's the exact same thing. She said, I can ask no wrong question. And if I make a mistake, it's okay. Wow, that's powerful. Hey, there's no wrong question. So much the teacher actually made them ask stupid questions to just be practicing. Like there's no wrong question. It was hilarious. The start of his year was hilarious, and just that you can go up and ask and make mistakes. My own response, along with that, is you know that you're in safety, and this is I guess across the board of life, but safe in
yep.
workspaces when you feel supported,
Mm,
when you feel understood, and when you feel cared for. I think
it's
that,
good.
that's the support that was my that's my thesis. Those are my what I found that the kids said that they needed, and all of that. Like if you think about it, I'm supported, I'm feeling understood, I'm not judged. There's a lot of lack of safety when you're feeling judged, and that people care for me. There's that safety.
I'll say just the ability to express myself, just be me without um feeling like by being me, I'll be put in a box, or by being me, then all of a sudden, it can get complex, and that's why I'm trying to be as clear as possible,
Sure.
so that I won't also be misunderstood. But yeah, I think just when I can fully express myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not scared of me expressing myself being something that can be used against me. I'm saying what I think. and I know there are some things one can say that can be touchy for someone like me that I'm a person of faith. Sometimes when I try to express like I'm a person of faith, you see people who are not, some people get offended by it. And I don't think that's safe because if you tell me
Mm,
you're not a person of faith, I won't get offended by it. That's you. It's fine.
yeah.
If you ask my opinion, I will give you my opinion. So just being in a place where I can express myself and someone is not
Yeah.
offended by me expressing myself. I'm not saying agree with me. You don't have to agree
Yeah.
with me. But if you really want to hear my opinion, then hear what I truly have to say.
Sure. You know, that's
Yeah.
one of the things I've had faith discussions on here a little bit before.
Mm,
And my feeling is we say we want to have freedom to speak, and we say that we acknowledge everybody else's beliefs. So it's one of my platforms here is I want to have an open area of dialogue of whatever that is. It is safe because I'm honestly tired. This is a side comment. I'm so fed up, and at least here in Canada, that we have lost our voice on certain issues. And if you don't
mm,
think a certain way, don't talk. Don't talk.
yep.
Right? So I want a bit of a backlash. I have three wrap up questions that take us back to the
Okay.
start. You ready? Here's number one.
Yeah.
If we are able to work in safe spaces, what does that do to our productivity?
Oh, nice.
Go.
Def yeah, definitely it will increase our productivity. Um, because first of all, there's a major component of productivity and it is motivation, right?
Yeah.
Motivation drives productivity. And if someone is in a safe space, I believe you will be super motivated to keep going. You will want to
Yeah.
bring your best to the workplace because all of a sudden it's not just me doing things, but these people, the workspace actually cares for me, right? I am happy, and there are days where I'm not my best self, and if it's a safe workspace, I think those days they are off days, right? That's not like every other day where you don't
Mm-hmm.
deliver. That is a separate conversation. But you deliver, but there are days where you're just off. It's not used against you. That would give
Sure.
me the courage to show up, if like show up every time with so much excitement because I know that I deliver and they take care of me. So it would definitely increase people's productivity.
I also think you touched on it. Your last answer is that when I feel I can express myself, I feel the freedom to just try something. I think we're going to get more explorative. Like Google Maps
Yeah.
was started because of just fun exploration at
Mm,
Google, right? You're able to really, I think, bring up creativity because otherwise, if you're afraid to say an idea,
yep.
the idea is not getting out there.
At
And we don't
all.
say our ideas if we don't feel safe.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, wrap up number two. What are the top three things that you would change about work culture that would make those spaces safer? And I mean like tangible ways. I know we've talked
Mm,
about it broader, but top three
yep.
tangible ways to make work safer.
Hey, I'll think about this deeply. Let's see. I think I have my three.
You have your three. I know it's a hard question, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it
I,
is. It is. It
I,
is.
I kind of get off on asking tricky questions because I really like getting in there. Okay, go ahead. So, what are your top three?
So my top three, the first will be just creating an environment where people can sincerely share what they think,
Yeah.
right? Um, the second is getting their feedback and doing something about it,
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
right? And thirdly is helping them. So the first is I express myself. I tell you, creating that space where I can freely express myself. The
Mm-hmm.
second is now I've told you what my challenge is, why I don't feel safe. You actually go ahead to do something about what I have talked about. And the third is to just make the workspace a bit more healthy when it comes to competitions. And
Mm-hmm.
I know why I say that because of how sometimes the workplace is structured, it tends to be an unhealthy competition between people,
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
and an unhealthy one, right? And they lose touch of themselves while trying to chase a competition. And by the
Mm-hmm.
time you get into that space, is yeah, because imagine we're in the same, or we are on the same team, and my goal is actually to, yeah, to make sure I get what you want.
Right.
By all
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
That can never there can never be a safe space in that place,
No, it's
no
cutthroat.
matter how much I try.
Yeah, it's cutthroat. And also, I like what you said about doing something about it. And I was thinking, like, actually doing something about feedback means you're authentically listening. You're not just listening for the sake of listening, you're authentically
Mm,
listening so that you're actually doing something about it.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
not to tick the next box. Like,
Yeah.
yay, we have 3 activities this year, and one
Right.
of it is to ask you how you're feeling.
Right. Like I've
Now
done
you've
my
told us,
task.
thank you.
Sure. I got, here's my feedback. I got my feedback. Right.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that was a good one. I like all three of them. Last question. So you do not have children yet, right?
No, not
But
yet.
we are, I know that you're a young buck, so I'm going to ask you down the road,
Yeah.
what would you want your children to know for sure as they enter the world of adulting and
Mm,
careering? What do you want them
mm.
to know for sure?
I want them to know who they are, right? And I know this sounds very vague. Like, what does that even mean? But I really want them to have a strong sense of identity before they go into not just even the workplace, but as they leave, because people do a lot of things that they are not supposed to be doing because they don't even know who they are. They have no sense of identity.
Right.
So it's whatever is trending, that's who they are. If this is trending today, that's who I am. If it changes, I tilt. If it changes, I tilt, right? So they have no core, there's no foundation behind them, right? So for me, when I have kids, that's something I'll try to teach them on time, right? Understand who you are. As much as you're open to views and hearing what people have to say, but don't feel less of yourself because of something some other person has or does. It's good to aspire to get things, right? But don't let what other people have or what they think just uh, destabilize what you think about yourself, and then you start chasing their life instead of chasing your own life. Yeah, so that's something I
Yeah.
think I'll really teach them.
Wilson, that just seems it's so grounding, right? It's just so grounding in what I feel is this growing, increasing world of turmoil. Everything around us, not just in the workforce. So to be grounded in knowing who you are is me too. What I want for my children going into the workforce.
Yeah, I think you'll be at peace when you know they have that, because a lot of superficial things will not change their perception of themselves. And that's
Yeah.
what if you look at social media, the things that go on social media these days, you notice some people don't want to do that. And it's in quote peer pressure because they have no definition for themselves, right? And I would strongly encourage any parent out there listening to this to, first of all, the parents should understand their own values and the things that are good, like they perceive, and then try to teach that to their children so that even when they're not with them, right? This, I don't have this, but it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not like this, it's fine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'll listen if I need to change things, I will work towards it, but I'm not going to all of a sudden lose my sense of self-worth because some other person is doing something that maybe I don't even enjoy. But and I've seen people do
Yeah.
that, to be honest. They're
Yeah.
like, I did this just because I wanted to fit in. No sense of identity. You just want to fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wilson Obeneme.
Yeah.
Close.
Fantastic.
Wilson Obeneme, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. I really love just taking work to a deeper, more meaningful and purposeful level because it is what I think we are missing in today's corporate culture.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. And now you can do something about this. You can share this episode with somebody you know and also click like on that little link below. Subscribe to this channel and leave any comments that you want to discuss or any future episodes that you would like to see. Join me next time.